Get 5 coffins ready.
Hey everyone, welcome to my guide for Ah Puch. Ah Puch is simply the riskiest character in the game. The only mage in the game with a mix of 0 hard CC, 0 built-in immunity, and 0 movement abilities or ways to increase his movement speed. Well, what do you get in return? Well, basically, you get Zeus, except his damage is harder to confirm. Yeah, Ah Puch isn't great, but he is a lot of fun, so if you want a unique mid laner who's good against healers and has a ton of outplay potential for people who disrespect you to the point of killing themselves to your damage when they try to kill you, Ah Puch is your guy. Build-wise, Ah Puch goes a typical mage fare, and likes cooldown reduction most of all, and any good item that's going to give him bonus mana or bonus mana regeneration. He can and also should flex in at least one defensive item, usually a Breastplate of Valor, as that just gives him basically every stat he wants. But if the team has just too much CC, he can get a Magi's Blessing instead, but actually Prophetic Cloak, I tried it out earlier, pretty good. Relics wise, it's just beats and Aegis, but if you're against gods with walls like Ymir, Cabrakan, and Odin, you're going to want a Shell second so you can upgrade it into Phantom Shell. Shard wise, it's just Horn Shard, it's perfect for him. Then finally, recipe wise, it's just Bountiful Bow. No surprise there, but it actually works really well with Ah Puch's passive. Ah Puch's first and third abilities leave behind corpses that Ah Puch can interact with by walking over them, granting himself health and mana and reducing the cooldown of his first and second abilities. This obviously tying in with Bountiful Bow perfectly, allowing Ah Puch to use an ability with Bow active, eat up his corpses, and then have his abilities right back up basically immediately while getting a bit of sustain on top. Pretty nifty, right? The corpses will die in 2 basic attacks from enemy gods, so be careful about where you place them, and Ah Puch can have up to 6 corpses out at a time. But of course, if you're using them with the intent to heal off of them, you're probably placing them safely anyways. I just wish they gave him movement speed when he absorbed the corpses. I mean, seriously, talk about an easy way to improve a character a bunch. But he doesn't gain any movement speed, likely because the heal is just that good. It really can get Ah Puch out of a pinch and help him deal with poke-based mages. And the mana regen is percent-based, so as the game gets later and later, eventually you'll be making more mana back than you spent on the abilities. Well, he can deal with poke-based mages well anyways thanks to his first ability. Ah Puch shoots forward 2 corpses which will stop on the first enemy or wall hit, but Ah Puch can stop the ability early by pressing the ability button again, so be careful about mashing the ability out. Another thing to be careful about is the narrow spaces. The ability stops on walls, but will be stopped if either corpse's AoE clips a wall, and this can be very finicky on the entrances and exits of the jungle. Ah Puch can of course stop the charge early so that he's able to eat up the corpses for some sustain, but as the most unsafe character in the game, Ah Puch generally uses this ability for damage at maximum range. This ability will deal damage and slow enemies that are hit. And that's all this ability does really, it's the interaction with the second ability that really makes this ability useful. But before that, don't forget that this ability is basically an unmissable slow, so if you're in a really bad position as Ah Puch, sometimes the best thing you can do is 180 and slow the enemies chasing you to get them off of yourself. Or if you're already in low health, one in front of yourself just to heal. Ah Puch's second ability is the other way Ah Puch interacts with his corpses. When activated, Ah Puch deals damage in an area. Any corpses in the area will explode when the area explodes, and each corpse creates an AoE as well, expanding the range of the explosion. As you'd expect then, damage is dealt in the original AoE, plus all the new AoEs created by whatever corpses are in there. So duh, the combo is 1 and 2. And don't forget that you can 2 while the corpses are traveling forward for a far more swift combo. And this is one you're going to want to have down pat if you want to be an Ah Puch master. It's not a lavish title, but it's a title. But that also means you can leave corpses laying around to use your first ability preemptively, then detonate them later for a huge epic explosion. It's great, right? Yeah, even though you can do that, you don't really just leave corpses around. You're either firing out your first ability and exploding them to clear the wave, to poke enemies you have a clear shot on, or you're just firing it for some sustain. The same sort of idea applies to Ah Puch's third ability. Ah Puch throws a corpse onto the ground, this ability being able to be used over walls this time, and any enemies within the immediate area around the corpse when it lands will be afflicted with the damage over time. If any enemy is healed by an ability, whether it be their own ability or an ally's ability, they'll begin taking bonus damage and will be stunned for 1.5 seconds. And let me tell you right now that bonus damage is almost double the amount of damage this ability deals normally, so it's where Ah Puch really starts to show his prowess as an anti-healer god. Let's clarify that by the way. This ability's bonus effect will only trigger on ability heals. Lifesteal, healing from pots, or healing from the meditation relic will not activate this bonus effect. So obviously, this bonus section only has niche use cases, but be sure to brush up on what abilities heal and especially what abilities heal over time. Because of course, anyone who's receiving a heal over time like Ra, Hell, or Chalk, if you 3 them while they're being healed, they have no way to avoid that insane bonus damage and of course the stun. Most of the time this ability is as you'd expect. It's like a more flexible version of Ah Puch's first ability. So if it's free poke you're looking for, look no further than 3-1ing your enemies rather than spending all day trying to line up and get in range for your first ability. This of course does less damage than 2 corpses, but it's not a bad option to keep things a bit more safe. but when it's time for all-in damage, look no further than 132 as a way to absolutely explode anyone disrespecting your range. And jokes aside about Ah Puch being worse than Zeus, this combo is far more effective against single targets, and as you can tell, it's better for wave clear than what Mr. Zeus can offer. All of this though is held back by a few factors. For one, the full 1-3-2 combo is quite slow, as is the simple 1-2 combo for that matter. So that makes 3-2 the far safer option for both poke and wave clear, but naturally you can't really rely on clearing with 3-2 for the entirety of the early game. Therefore, learning the range as well as the timing of all three of these core combos, as well as knowing the absolute maximum of their ranges to keep yourself in a safe position during both laning and fights is what's key as Ah Puch. When, not if you get jumped on as Ah Puch however, is when your ultimate comes into play. Ah Puch lays down a huge AoE on the ground, and within this AoE, hundreds of projectiles fire forward randomly. Each projectile deals damage and applies anti-heal to the target, and this anti-heal can stack for a whopping 60%, and this AoE will continue firing even when Ah Puch dies. This seals Ah Puch as a great choice against healers. Well, okay, it's typically better just to pick someone who doesn't die as easily and build anti-heal on them, but still, he is good in any composition whose focus is trying to kill a healer mage like Hel and Aphrodite, like when teaming him with an Odin or Kraken. So when I said Ah Puch can use this to keep himself safe, by that I meant he can use it to kill anyone who jumps on him. Because wow, if an enemy gets stuck in this AoE via Ah Puch's meager slow on his 1, or even better by a teammate using their more reliable hard CC while they're in it, they're absolutely getting toasted like a bagel. There isn't even a potential maximum or minimum amount of damage to be taken here though, since again, the projectiles come and go at random, so sometimes they can take 1.2 quintillion estimated damage, or sometimes they can take around 800 or so. But either way, no matter who's in the ultimate, they're in a rush to get out, because nobody can tank this ultimate, even if Ah Puch is behind on farm. Luckily, this simplifies Ah Puch as a character. You sit around, looking for good opportunities to use your core 3 combos we've already talked about, and then, if your teammates get a good engage, walk up and use the ultimate. Then, if your team, or if you the Ah Puch get jumped on at any point in the game, ultimate. Ult like you've never ulted before. From there, you can try and do your classic 1-2 combo to slow them inside of your ultimate, or if they're a powerful ganker like Pele or Susano, ult, start running away, and place some corpses in the path you're running towards to sustain yourself up. And if you feel like you can still turn the fight, try to lay down your corpses inside the ultimate instead, so you can heal yourself up a bit, get the abilities off of cooldown, and turn the fight while in the ultimate. But this of course is a very risky play. It's typically either that you want to use the ultimate to press on forward, or use your ultimate to help you retreat. Like any other high impact ability, it's very possible to be too trigger happy with this ultimate, but it really is something you want to use as early as possible to have the most impact possible, especially when it comes to using it while getting jumped on. Another way this simplifies Ah Puch is that it gives him a very clear position to stand in a fight and while laning. You rarely want to step out of the range for the back of your ult to be outside of your tower. This obviously being the position you want to take so that you can safely ult and then retreat back to your tower with a vast majority of the distance you cover back to your tower being covered with the ultimate, therefore making it harder for the enemy to dive. The same goes for fights. Stand just outside of range for your third ability to hit, and position yourself so that if you ult, your ult will be nearby landmarks like towers or where your teammates are sitting during fights so that you can scurry back over to them. Speaking of fights, don't forget to drop it on things like Gold Fury and Fire Giant as well. If you use your ultimate in either one of those areas, if the enemy team is trying to steal the objective, the ability easily covers most good positions, making it harder for the enemy team to walk up and making it easier for your team to get the objective since this ability has such excessive damage, especially on something that won't be walking out of it like a Fire Giant or Gold Fury. Here's some combos with Ah Puch. 1-2 1-3-2 1-2 ult. Ult 1-3-2. For ability leveling, you want your 1 at level 1, and you do this so that you can eat up your corpses, not just for the sustain, but to get it off cooldown faster. This allows you to spam the ability out while you clear camps, and sets you up for the level 2 of having your 1-2 at level 2 rather than your 3-2 at level 2, which is terrible. You can pick up the corpse your 3 leaves behind as well at level 1, right? But it doesn't reduce the cooldown like the 1 does, so the 1 actually ends up being more damage at level 1. And basically what you're hearing right now is me fighting with myself in my head yesterday when I was playing Ah Puch, but I digress. Then, obviously, you want your 3 at level 3. From there you max your 2, your 3, then your 1, leveling the ultimate whenever you can. So that's Ah Puch. Intrigued? Probably. Should you play him though? Probably not. Ah Puch is an awesome god, but to be honest, this guy just dies. I can't even lie. The first time you try this guy, you'll probably die so many times you'll wonder why you even tried. That was my attempt to break into the hip-hop world. Did it work? But seriously, until you get down how to position yourself as Ah Puch, you will be punished for simply existing. And while it's great that the ultimate can pump out so much damage that he can kill people before they can kill him, you still need to time your purification beast to perfection to make sure you get yourself enough time to pull out one of your main combos while you have someone in the ultimate. Otherwise they'll just kill you before you can get any piece of damage other than your ultimate's out. As with Scotty last time though, this is a great god to play despite their not goodness. He's just weird, fun, and different, and unlike Scotty, actually has some real world applications outside of stomping unsuspecting players who aren't used to fighting them. He really is awful to play against as a healer. If you're a healer against him, you feel like you're completely locked off from your healing abilities when you're around him because you feel like he's just gonna plop his 3 right in your head right before you try and heal. And god, is he ever annoying to siege into, and try to fight at those objective fights. If you try to siege into an Ah Puch, good luck. He'll be spamming 1-2 and ulting the entirety of the tower or phoenix area as soon as you feel comfortable walking in and stops every last advancement you have. This is all contingent however on Ah Puch not dying, which again, super hard to do, even if you're a good player. You can sit under your tower, but any good mid laner is just going to be plucking a little bit of farm here and a little bit of farm there in other places of the map, and all of a sudden you're 2 or even 3 levels behind because you're too scared to leave the tower. It can be painful playing Ah Puch, but it's a labor of love, because man, it's just got cool and fun to play as once it gets going. That's all I have on Ah Puch for now. Thanks for watching.